Jin Park sat in his small university office, staring at the glowing message on his computer screen. He read it for the fifth time, still not believing what he saw. The Galactic Science Academy had chosen him, a simple ecology student from Seoul National University, to represent Earth at their annual conference. "This has to be a joke," he muttered, adjusting his glasses. The office felt unusually warm as he considered the implications. Humans had only joined the galactic community 3 years ago, and most alien species still avoided Earth like the plague. They called it a death world, a planet so dangerous that most alien life forms couldn't survive there for even a day. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called out, grateful for the distraction. Han-Bai Kim, his research partner, walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. Her lab coat had dirt stains from their morning fieldwork in the university's experimental garden. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Han-Bai said, placing 1 cup on his desk. She leaned over his shoulder to read the screen. Her coffee cup crashed to the floor, spilling its contents everywhere. Neither of them moved to clean it up. "The Galactic Science Academy," Han-Bai whispered. "Jin, this is huge. They never invite Deathworlders to present. Never." Jin ran his hands through his hair. "I know. Professor Yoon must have recommended me after our research on urban ecosystem adaptation." He turned to face his friend. "But Han-Bai, I can't do this alone. Will you help me prepare the presentation?" Han-Bai's face lit up with excitement. "Are you kidding? Of course. We can show them things they've never seen before. Wait until they learn about our rainforests." Over the next few weeks, Jin and Han-Bai worked day and night preparing their presentation. They gathered data about Earth's various ecosystems, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains. Professor Yoon, their mentor and Earth's leading xenobiologist, helped them understand what would interest and shock their alien audience. "Remember," Professor Yoon told them during one late-night planning session, "what we consider normal is terrifying to them. Their worlds have no predators, no extreme weather, and certainly no microscopic organisms floating in the air." The professor's eyes twinkled with amusement. "Show them everything." As the departure date approached, Jin received more information about his audience. Representatives from 50 different alien species would attend his presentation. Most came from what they called Class 1 worlds, planets with perfect weather, no dangerous animals, and carefully controlled environments. The night before his departure, Jin stood on the roof of the science building, looking at Seoul's bright lights. Han-Bai joined him, carrying their final presentation draft on a tablet. "I added the section about cockroaches," she said, grinning. "Did you know most alien species can't understand how anything could survive a nuclear explosion?" Jin laughed. "Maybe we should leave out the part about them living in our homes. We don't want to cause a panic." He looked up at the stars, wondering what awaited him up there. "Tomorrow, we show them what Earth is really like." "They won't know what hit them," Han-Bai agreed. She pulled up their first slide, a simple image of morning dew on a spider's web, starting with something beautiful before we terrify them. The next morning, as Jin boarded the alien shuttle that would take him to the academy, he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. In his bag, he carried samples of Earth's soil, carefully sealed in containers. Even that, he knew, would shock them. The number of microorganisms living in a handful of dirt exceeded the total population of some alien worlds. Professor Yoon's final words echoed in his mind. "Show them why we're called Deathworlders, Jin. But more importantly, show them why we're proud of it." The shuttle's door closed with a soft hiss. As Earth grew smaller below him, Jin smiled, thinking about the presentation waiting on his tablet. The aliens had no idea what they were about to learn about his home planet. No idea at all. The alien shuttle docked at the Galactic Science Academy with a gentle touch. Jin felt strange as soon as he stepped out. The gravity was much lighter here, making him feel as if he might float away with each step. The air smelled too clean, almost sterile, lacking Earth's rich mixture of scents. An alien official waited for him at the entrance. She looked like a tall, thin creature made of crystal, with transparent skin that showed rainbow colors when she moved. Du-Jin remembered from his briefing that she was from a Class 1 world called Lumina, where the weather never changed, and the temperature stayed constant all year. "Welcome, distinguished Scholar Park," the crystal being said through his translator. "I am first speaker May. We are honored by your presence, though we must admit some concern about hosting a Deathworlder." Du-Jin bowed politely, careful not to move too quickly. He had been warned that sudden movements could startle Class 1 species. "Thank you for having me. I promise I won't break anything or anyone." May's crystal form flickered with what might have been nervous laughter. "Please, let me show you to your quarters. We have tried to make them as close to Earth conditions as possible." As they walked through the Academy's halls, Du-Jin noticed other alien species watching him from a safe distance. Some looked like clouds of colored gas floating in environmental suits. Others resembled delicate plant structures or geometric shapes made of light. All of them moved away when he got too close. His room surprised him. They had tried to make it Earth-like by setting the gravity higher, but it still felt too weak. The air pressure was also too low, and the temperature too perfect. Du-Jin missed Earth's natural variations already. A message from Hanbai appeared on his tablet. "How's space? Are the aliens as fragile as we thought?" Du-Jin smiled as he replied, "Even more fragile. I just watched one jump away because I sneezed. They think we're walking disasters." He unpacked his samples, carefully placing the sealed containers on a special shelf. Each one contained normal things from Earth: a flower, some soil, a leaf with morning dew, and a small rock with lichen growing on it. To him, they were simple examples of Earth's ecosystems. To the aliens, they were like tiny boxes of horror. Later that day, Du-Jin attended a welcome dinner. The dining hall had separate sections for different species, each with its own environmental controls. His section was labeled Extreme Environment Species. He was the only one sitting there. As he ate his specially prepared Earth food, Du-Jin overheard some alien scientists discussing him. Their translators weren't very quiet. "Did you know they drink water with minerals in it?" one gaseous being whispered. "I heard they let microscopic organisms live in their food on purpose. They call it fermentation," another added with horror. "Their planet has areas where frozen water falls from the sky, and they just walk around in it," a crystal being said. Du-Jin couldn't help but smile. If they were shocked by snow and kimchi, wait until they saw his presentation tomorrow. He took out his tablet and made some notes to share with Hanbai. That night, as he lay in his too-perfect bed, Du-Jin thought about Earth. He missed the sound of wind, the slight changes in temperature, and even the faint noise of traffic from the streets. Here, everything was still and quiet, controlled and safe. His tablet lit up with a final message from Professor Yoon. "Remember, Du-Jin, every strange look they give you is proof of human strength. Tomorrow, show them what it really means to be from Earth." Du-Jin closed his eyes, thinking about his presentation. His first slide would show a simple thunderstorm, something that would never happen on a Class 1 world. He wondered how they would react to that, knowing it was one of the gentler aspects of Earth he planned to show them. Tomorrow, he whispered to himself, they learn what real nature looks like. The main lecture hall of the Galactic Science Academy filled quickly on the morning of Du-Jin's presentation. Alien species of all forms settled into their environmental pods, transparent chambers that maintained their specific atmospheric needs. From the stage, Du-Jin saw hundreds of these pods floating at different heights, each containing beings that looked more delicate than fine glass. A hologram flickered to life beside him, showing Professor Yoon's familiar face. "The connection is stable," the professor said. "Hanbai is here too. We're ready to assist if needed." Du-Jin nodded, grateful for their support. He looked down at his tablet one last time, then stepped forward to address the audience. The universal translators hummed to life, ready to convert his words for all present species. Respected members of the Galactic Science Academy, Du Jin began. I am here to tell you about my home planet, Earth. We will start with basic facts about our world. The first slide appeared behind him, a simple graph showing Earth's atmospheric composition. Immediately, several gaseous beings in the audience changed color in what appeared to be shock. Earth's atmosphere contains multiple elements, Du Jin continued, primarily nitrogen and oxygen, with other gases mixed in. He paused as several translators chimed with questions from the audience. You breathe molecular oxygen? Asked a crystalline being. The same oxygen that causes rust. Yes, Du Jin replied. Our bodies evolved to use it. In fact, we need it to survive. The next slide showed Earth's gravity measurements. A wave of movement passed through the audience as environmental pods shifted nervously. Du Jin heard the sound of liquid beings churning in their containers. The average surface gravity of Earth is 9.8 meters per second squared, he explained. The numbers triggered another round of shocked reactions. Several Class 1 species began emitting distress signals. Professor Yoon's hologram smiled encouragingly. Show them the weather patterns, he suggested. Du Jin brought up the next slide, a time-lapse video of a typical thunderstorm. Lightning flashed across the screen, followed by rain and wind. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Several pods retreated to the highest points of the lecture hall. Others engaged their protective shields. On Earth, electrical discharges in the atmosphere are common, Du Jin explained. We call them lightning storms. They happen thousands of times every day somewhere on our planet. And your species survives this, asked a being made of interconnected geometric shapes. We do more than survive, Du Jin replied. We have learned to predict these storms, study them, and even protect our structures from their power. Some of our planet's life forms thrive because of them. He moved to the next slide, showing the seasonal changes of a forest through one Earth year. The images showed trees losing their leaves, snow covering the ground, new growth in spring, and the full bloom of summer. Our planet goes through regular temperature cycles we call seasons, Du Jin explained. Many parts of Earth experience temperature variations of over 40 degrees Celsius within a single year. The translators struggled to keep up with the flood of shocked exclamations. A delegation of cloud-like beings began pulsing rapidly in their pod, their equivalent of hyperventilation. Han Buddy's voice came through his earpiece. Du Jin, the medical team reports several species are requesting anxiety suppressants. Maybe we should take a short break. Du Jin looked at the audience. He had only covered the most basic aspects of Earth's environment, and already the alien scientists seemed overwhelmed. He hadn't even reached the truly interesting parts yet. The predators, the extremophiles, the parasites, or the vast diversity of microscopic life. We will take a brief recess, he announced. When we return, I will show you how Earth's life forms have adapted to these conditions. As the pods began filing out of the hall, Professor Yoon's hologram chuckled. Well done, Du Jin. Just wait until they see what comes next. Du Jin watched the retreating aliens, thinking about his next section on Earth's rainforests. Professor, he said quietly, should I tone down the presentation about the Amazon? Absolutely not, Professor Yoon replied firmly. They need to understand what real planetary ecology looks like. Besides, if they're this shocked by lightning, imagine their reaction to army ants. After the break, fewer environmental pods returned to the lecture hall. Du Jin noticed that many of the remaining pods had activated additional protective shields. The medical team had set up emergency stations at each corner of the room, staffed by robots designed to handle various species' needs. Now we will explore one of Earth's most diverse ecosystems, Du Jin announced. The Amazon rainforest. The main screen displayed a sweeping view of the Amazon canopy. Endless green stretched to the horizon, broken by the winding silver ribbon of the river. Several gaseous beings changed color to what Du Jin assumed was a worried shade of purple. The Amazon contains more species than most planets in the galaxy, Dujin continued. In a single square kilometer, you might find thousands of different life forms. They all interact in what we call a food web. Hanbai's voice came through his earpiece. Show them the jaguar footage, she suggested. The one we recorded last month. Dujin played the video. On screen, a jaguar stalked through the undergrowth, following the capybara. The alien audience watched in complete silence as the predator moved closer to its prey. When the jaguar pounced, several pods rapidly changed position, trying to move away from the screen. This is normal hunting behavior, Dujin explained. Predators like the jaguar must hunt to survive. They help maintain the balance of species in the forest. A crystalline being's translator crackled to life. You mean these creatures actively consume other living beings? And this happens regularly? Every day, Dujin confirmed. In fact, the jaguar is just one of many predators in this ecosystem. He moved to the next slide, showing a series of images. An anaconda wrapping around its prey, army ants swarming over the forest floor, and a spider wrapping its catch in silk. With each image, more pods retreated to the highest points of the hall. Professor Yoon's hologram appeared beside Dujin. Tell them about the plants, he encouraged. Hanbai's research on carnivorous species. Dujin brought up images of various pitcher plants and Venus flytraps. Even our plants can be predators, he said. These species trap and digest insects and small animals. A pod containing a group of light-based beings flickered rapidly. Their translator spoke with a trembling tone. Your vegetation hunts. How do you survive in such a place? We adapt, Dujin answered. Humans learn to understand these species, to respect them, and to live alongside them. But the predators are not the most interesting part of the Amazon. He changed the display to show microscopic images of fungi and parasites. These organisms live inside other creatures, forming complex relationships that can last for generations. Some fungi can even control the behavior of insects, making them help spread spores before they die. The medical robots became very busy at this point. Several pods requested immediate atmosphere purification, despite being completely sealed from the lecture hall's air. A delegation of cloud-like beings had compressed themselves into tight balls, their way of showing extreme stress. Should we continue? Hanbaya asked through the earpiece. The medical team reports increasing anxiety levels among all species. Dujin looked at Professor Yoon's hologram, which nodded encouragingly. They need to understand, the professor said. This is just the beginning of what makes Earth unique. We will now examine how these various species interact during the rainy season, Dujin announced. When the forest floods, it creates new opportunities for life to thrive. As he prepared to show footage of flooding carrying nutrients through the ecosystem, Dujin noticed something unusual. The pods were gradually arranging themselves into a pattern he recognized from his xenobiology studies, a defensive formation used by Class 1 species when they felt threatened. They weren't just scared of Earth's ecology. They were treating the very idea of it as a potential attack. The Academy's medical robots worked continuously now, moving between environmental pods to distribute calming agents. Dujin paused his presentation briefly as the remaining alien scientists adjusted their protective shields. Nearly a third of the original audience had already left, citing ecological stress as their reason. We will now explore Earth's oceans, Dujin announced. Specifically, the deep regions where sunlight cannot reach. The main screen displayed a map showing Earth's ocean depths. Numbers appeared, indicating the increasing pressure levels as depth increased. Several crystalline beings developed visible cracks in their outer layers upon seeing these measurements. At the deepest point in our oceans, Dujin explained, the pressure would crush most spacecraft, yet life thrives there. Hanbai's voice came through his earpiece. Show them the hydrothermal vent communities. The footage from the Pacific expedition. The screen changed to show black smokers, deep sea vents releasing superheated water into the darkness. Strange creatures moved around these vents, living in water hot enough to melt lead. The alien audience's translators produced a chorus of alarmed sounds. These organisms survive without sunlight, Dujin continued. They use chemical energy from the Earth's core, converting toxic substances into food. A pod containing gaseous beings moved forward. Their translator spoke with clear distress. You mean these creatures live on poison? Yes, Dujin confirmed. What many species consider poison, Earth's life forms often use as fuel. Professor Hume's hologram appeared, gesturing toward the next slide. Tell them about the giant squid footage, he suggested. Dujin played the video showing a massive squid hunting in the darkness. Its bioluminescent patterns flashed as it chased its prey. 3 pods of light-based beings immediately shut down their transparency, becoming completely opaque to avoid watching. Bioluminescence is common in our deep oceans, Dujin explained. Many creatures use light to hunt, communicate, or hide. Some use it to lure prey closer. He displayed images of anglerfish, their natural fishing lures glowing in the darkness. A delegation of geometric beings began rapidly shifting their shapes in what appeared to be panic. The pressure at these depths, Dujin continued, would normally destroy cellular structures, but Earth's organisms adapted. They evolved proteins that worked better under extreme pressure. The medical robots reported increasing signs of distress among all species present. Several pods had activated their highest level of environmental protection, creating spheres of complete isolation around their occupants. Even in these harsh conditions, Dujin said, we find unexpected forms of life. Some organisms can hibernate in deep-sea sediments for thousands of years, waiting for the right conditions to revive. This fact caused 2 more pods to leave the lecture hall immediately. The remaining audience seemed frozen in place, their various forms displaying signs of shock that transcended species barriers. Hanbai spoke through the earpiece again. Dujin, maybe we should skip the section about pressure-resistant bacteria. But Professor Hume's hologram shook his head. No, they need to understand. Earth's oceans hold more secrets than most planets' entire biospheres. Dujin brought up the final ocean slide. A composite image showing the scale of marine biodiversity, from microscopic plankton to blue whales. The image emphasized how all these organisms existed together, forming complex food webs that spanned the entire ocean. This is just one of Earth's aquatic ecosystems, Dujin concluded, and our oceans cover more than 70% of our planet's surface. The silence that followed was profound. Even the translators seemed to pause, as if the alien species needed time to process this information. Finally, a crystalline being spoke, its voice trembling through the translator. How do you sleep at night, knowing such things exist beneath your waters? Dujin smiled gently. We sleep very well. After all, the deep ocean is one of Earth's more peaceful environments. Dujin decided to shift his presentation to what he thought would be a less frightening topic. Less than half of the original audience remained in the lecture hall, and those who stayed kept their protective shields at maximum power. Let us examine how life adapts to human cities, he said, displaying an aerial view of Seoul at night. These are our urban environments, where millions of humans live together. The alien audience seemed to relax slightly. Several pods lowered their shield levels, perhaps thinking this section would be less alarming than deep-sea horrors. In our cities, we have created new ecosystems, Dujin explained. Many species have adapted to live alongside humans. He showed images of pigeons nesting on building ledges. The alien scientists nodded their geometric, gaseous, or crystalline forms. This seemed safe enough to them. Then Dujin continued. These birds have evolved to breathe air containing pollution particles. Their bodies can process harmful substances that would kill most other creatures. The relaxed atmosphere vanished instantly. A pod of cloud-like beings began emitting distress signals again. The birds are not alone, Dujin said. Let me show you our city's most successful inhabitants. Hanbai's voice came through his earpiece. The rat presentation is ready. Should we show it? Proceed. Du Jin confirmed, bringing up footage of rats navigating city infrastructure. These mammals can survive falls from great heights, swim through toxic water, and eat almost anything. They live in our sewer systems, which are full of dangerous chemicals and waste. Professor Hume's hologram appeared, looking pleased as several alien pods retreated to their defensive positions again. But perhaps most impressive, Du Jin continued, are these small creatures. He displayed a magnified image of a cockroach. They can survive radiation levels that would kill most life forms. They can live without food for months. Some can even survive without their heads for weeks. A crystalline being's translator crackled with horror. And these creatures share your living spaces? Yes, Du Jin replied. In fact, they help clean our cities by consuming waste materials. They are part of our urban ecosystem's balance. He moved to the next slide, showing human immune system data. Living in these conditions has made humans stronger. Our bodies constantly fight off millions of microscopic invaders. We have evolved powerful immune systems that can adapt to new threats. Han Bai added more data to the screen, showing how human cells could repair radiation damage and fight off infections. The alien audience's reaction was dramatic. Several pods began vibrating at frequencies that suggested extreme anxiety. Our children play in parks where thousands of species of bacteria live in the soil, Du Jin explained. We breathe air filled with spores and pollen. Our bodies learn to protect themselves by experiencing these challenges. Professor Hume's hologram nodded approvingly as more pods activated their emergency protocols. The remaining audience seemed unable to look away, despite their obvious distress. Even in our cleanest buildings, Du Jin concluded, life finds a way to adapt and thrive. Our cities are not separate from nature. They have become their own unique ecosystems. A geometric being's translator spoke with what sounded like awe and terror mixed together. Your species deliberately lives with these conditions. You could sterilize your environments, yet you choose not to. Du Jin smiled. Sterilizing our environment would make us weaker. Earth's challenges have shaped us, made us resilient. Every human carries this strength within them. As he prepared to move to the next section, Du Jin noticed something remarkable. Despite their fear, none of the remaining aliens had left. They seemed to realize they were witnessing something unprecedented. A species that didn't just survive in harsh conditions, but embraced them as a source of strength. Du Jin reached what he knew would be the most challenging part of his presentation. He glanced at Professor Yoon's hologram, which gave him an encouraging nod. The remaining alien audience had maintained their defensive positions, their environmental pods forming a protective barrier between them and the images on the screen. Now, Du Jin announced, we will examine Earth's smallest life forms. He displayed a microscope image showing bacteria swimming in a drop of water. These organisms are everywhere on our planet. They live in our soil, our water, and even inside our bodies. The translator system erupted with sounds of distress. A pod of crystalline beings began to vibrate at frequencies that made their protective shields shimmer. The average human body contains trillions of these microscopic life forms, Du Jin continued. They help us digest food, protect our skin, and strengthen our immune systems. Han Bu's voice came through his earpiece. Show them the symbiotic relationship data, the stuff from our research paper. Du Jin displayed graphs showing how bacterial colonies in the human gut helped process different types of food. The alien audience's reaction was immediate and severe. Several pods engaged their highest level of quarantine protocols, creating multiple layers of energy shields around their occupants. These microorganisms evolve with us, Du Jin explained. They adapt to new conditions just as we do. Some can double their population in minutes under the right conditions. A gaseous being's translator spoke with clear panic. You mean these creatures are actively reproducing inside you right now? Yes, Du Jin confirmed. In fact, they are essential for our survival. Without them, our digestive systems would not function properly. Professor Yoon's hologram pointed to the next slide. Show them the virus data, he suggested. They need to understand the full picture. Du Jin brought up images of various viruses. These are even smaller life forms that exist everywhere on Earth. They can change their structure to adapt to new hosts. Some can survive in frozen ice for thousands of years before becoming active again. The lecture hall's emergency systems activated as multiple pods began emitting distress signals simultaneously. The medical robots could barely keep up with the demand for calming agents. Every breath we take, Du Jin said, contains thousands of microscopic organisms. Every surface on Earth hosts millions of them. They are part of our world's natural balance. A geometric being's translator crackled with horror. Your entire planet is contaminated with self-replicating microscopic life. And you consider this normal? More than normal, Du Jin replied. It is necessary. These organisms help break down dead matter, cycle nutrients, and create conditions that allow larger life forms to exist. The final straw came when Du Jin showed time-lapse footage of bacteria evolving resistance to various challenges. The remaining alien scientists watched in stunned silence as the microscopic creatures adapted and survived conditions that should have killed them. Suddenly, emergency alarms began blaring throughout the academy. A computerized voice announced, "Attention all delegates. Earth's classification has been automatically upgraded to Extreme Hazard Zone based on presented evidence. All Class 1 through 3 species are advised to avoid any contact with Earth or its inhabitants." Professor Yoon's hologram smiled broadly. Well done, Du Jin. You've just made Earth the most respected and feared planet in the galaxy. Du Jin looked at his audience, now huddled in their pods behind multiple layers of shielding. They had come expecting to learn about a dangerous world. Instead, they had discovered that every particle of Earth's environment was alive and constantly evolving. 1 month after Du Jin's presentation, the Galactic Science Academy had completely changed its approach to Earth. Instead of avoiding the planet, alien species now studied it from a safe distance. Earth had become the galaxy's premier training ground for extreme environment specialists. Du Jin sat in his university office, reading messages from across the galaxy. His presentation had been viewed by millions of alien scientists, though most could only watch small portions before needing emotional support. "You've become quite famous," Hanbai said, entering his office with their usual coffee cups. "I heard the Academy created a new research department just for Earth studies." Professor Yoon's hologram appeared on Du Jin's desk. Not just a department. They're building an entire orbital station to study Earth's ecosystems without risking direct contact. Du Jin smiled, remembering the aliens' reactions. They still won't visit the surface, will they? No, Professor Yoon laughed. But they've started sending research drones. They're particularly interested in how Earth life forms adapt so quickly to new challenges. Hanbai placed a tablet on Du Jin's desk, showing the latest galactic news. Earth had become a symbol of extreme survival. Other species now use Earth's ecosystems as the ultimate test for their technology and environmental suits. "The Galactic Council sent us this," Hanbai said, displaying an official message. "They want us to help create survival training programs for their exploration teams." Du Jin read the message with growing amazement. The Council had realized that any species capable of surviving on Earth could probably survive anywhere in the galaxy. They wanted to learn from humans, not despite their Deathworld origins, but because of them. "They're calling us universe's greatest survivors," Professor Yoon said proudly. "Your presentation showed them that humans don't just survive in harsh conditions. We thrive in them." A new message appeared on Du Jin's screen. The Academy was requesting permission to study how human children played in dirt, seeing it as an extreme example of environmental adaptation. They couldn't understand how young humans could casually interact with millions of microorganisms and emerge stronger. "Should we tell them about kids eating mud pies?" Hanbi joked, making Du Jin laugh. "Maybe in the advanced course," he replied. "I think they need time to process the basics first." Professor Yoon's hologram gestured to another message. The Council wants you both to write a book about Earth's ecosystems. They think it could help other species understand why we're so different. Jin looked out his window at the Seoul skyline. Rain was falling, and he could see people walking without environmental suits, their umbrellas protecting them from water that would terrify most alien species. Birds flew through the polluted air, insects crawled on the buildings, and countless microscopic organisms lived in every drop of rain. "We should write it," he said finally, "not to scare them, but to help them understand. Earth made us strong because it never made things easy for us." Hanbai nodded, already taking notes. "We could start with how human children's immune systems develop by being exposed to their environment. That seems to fascinate them the most." Professor Yoon's hologram smiled. "You've changed how the galaxy sees us, Jin. They used to think Earth was a nightmare world. Now they see it as a place that creates the strongest life forms in the universe." Jin picked up a small pot of soil from his desk, the same sample he had taken to the academy. In it, countless organisms lived, died, and evolved, continuing the endless cycle that had shaped humanity's development. "We're not the galaxy's strongest species despite Earth's conditions," he said quietly. "We're the strongest because of them."